I'd always hated the idea of strangers knowing too much about me. But the moment he walked into my life, everything changed. I was sitting at a coffee shop in the middle of a quiet Tuesday afternoon, trying to distract myself from the unending stress of work. My laptop was open, a half-finished report blinking on the screen. The usual background hum of conversation surrounded me, but my attention was elsewhere on the thick brown leather jacket that a man had hung on the chair across from me. He was older, in his late 30s, wearing a pair of dark sunglasses that he never took off. His hair was neatly combed, and his features were sharp, like someone straight out of an old noir film. He sat there without saying a word, sipping his coffee in silence, watching me. I'd been so absorbed in my work that I didn't even notice the moment he moved into my personal space. 1 minute I was typing furiously. The next, I felt his voice invade my thoughts. "Sarah, you're looking good," he said casually. I blinked, startled, my fingers freezing over the keyboard. My heart skipped a beat. No one knew me here. The only people who knew my name in this city were close friends and co-workers. I looked up at him, my breath caught in my throat. He hadn't looked at me directly yet, still staring out the window, his sunglasses reflecting the afternoon light. His voice sounded calm, almost like a compliment you'd hear from a friend, but something about it unsettled me. "How do you know my name?" I asked, forcing myself to speak. My throat was dry. He smiled slightly, turning just enough for me to see his lips move. "I know a lot more than just your name, Sarah." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes never meeting mine. "You used to visit a small park near your old house on Orchard Street. You'd walk your dog there, that golden retriever you had when you were 16. The one who passed out when you were 23. My stomach churned. How could he know that? I couldn't move, my thoughts racing. This had to be a joke. Someone messing with me. There were thousands of people in the city, but no one could know that about me. But then he mentioned more. Details I'd never told anyone, things I hadn't thought about in years. My old high school, the name of my first job, the place I bought my first car. I wasn't sure how he knew it all, but the way he spoke about it, like it was nothing, made me feel exposed, vulnerable, like he could see through every wall I'd ever built around myself. "What do you want from me?" I finally managed to ask. My voice came out more trembling than I wanted it to. He paused for a moment, letting the question hang in the air. The slight smile on his face faded, replaced by something unreadable. "I just want to remind you, Sarah," he said, his voice taking on a darker tone, "that not everything is as it seems, especially with people who know too much about you." With that, he stood up and left, just as quietly as he'd come. His jacket swished as he walked out the door, and the coffee shop seemed to go back to normal, like he'd never been there. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. I checked my phone, needing something to ground me. No messages, no missed calls, no new notifications. But when I looked up again, the seat where he'd been sitting was empty. The jacket was gone. I spent the rest of the day trying to shake off what had happened. I convinced myself it was just a coincidence that the stranger was someone who'd researched me online or overheard bits of my life. After all, it was the age of information, and with social media, anyone could learn things about you without even trying. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the feeling that something was off. That night, I tried to relax by watching a show I'd been following for weeks. But the buzzing of my phone interrupted my thoughts. It was a text message from an unknown number. "I see you're still living in the same apartment on Briar Lane, the one with the blue door. Your neighbor, Mrs. Jensen, still greets you every morning with a cup of tea, doesn't she?" I froze. How did he know that? Mrs. Jensen, my elderly neighbor, always brought me tea every morning, just as the message described. I hadn't mentioned it to anyone, not even to my closest friends. I stared at the message for a long time. Panic began to rise in my chest, and my fingers trembled as I typed out a response. "Who is this?" I hit send, and the dots appeared, then disappeared. He was typing. My heart raced. Was he watching me now? I sat back, waiting for the reply. Finally, the message came. "I'm just someone who knows you better than you know yourself." I stared at the screen. the words echoing in my mind. How could this be happening? I felt trapped, like someone was inside my head watching me. How much did he know? I blocked the number, but I knew that wasn't going to make a difference. It was just a text message. He could reach me again. He could find me. I didn't feel safe in my own home anymore. I spent the rest of the evening pacing around my apartment, checking the locks on all the doors, pulling the curtains shut tightly, even though it was still light outside. When I finally settled back down on the couch, I picked up my phone again and froze. On the home screen was a photo I didn't recognize. It was a picture of my front door, taken from the street. The camera angle made it look like it was taken from the sidewalk, and the door was framed perfectly in the shot. There were no fingerprints on the glass, but I knew instantly that it wasn't a picture I had taken. The caption read, "I see you." My stomach dropped. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was some sort of glitch. Some app I had on my phone that pulled in random images. But everything inside me told me that wasn't the case. Whoever this was, they knew exactly where I was, and they were getting closer. I called the police the next morning, but they couldn't do much. "It's likely someone just harassing you," the officer said. "Don't respond to any messages. Change your privacy settings and make sure your security cameras are working," but none of their advice made me feel better. I was still scared, still uncertain. And the worst part? That stranger I met in the coffee shop hadn't just been a fluke. He knew things about me, things I'd never told anyone. The fact that he'd found me again, through something as personal as my apartment, it meant he was watching. That afternoon, I went to the grocery store, hoping the normalcy of buying food would help me feel grounded. I tried to focus on the shelves, the soft hum of the air conditioner, the buzz of the overhead lights. But when I turned down one aisle, I froze. There he was again. The man from the coffee shop standing at the end of the aisle, his dark sunglasses on, his body stiff and unmoving. He wasn't looking at me, but I could feel his presence. My breath caught in my chest and my heart pounded in my ears. For a moment, I debated what to do. I could leave, run out the door and drive away, but I wasn't sure if that would make things worse. Instead, I stood there pretending to browse the shelves, feeling his eyes on me. When I finally turned to look back, he was gone. I rushed out of the store and straight to my car, my hands shaking so much I could barely hold the steering wheel. But as I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw something on my rearview mirror. It was a slip of paper, folded neatly, sitting on the passenger seat. I unfolded it quickly, my eyes scanning the note. "I'll be watching you. You can't hide from your past." I grabbed my things, packed a bag, and drove to the nearest hotel, anything to get away from the suffocating fear that had been building in my chest. My car roared to life, and for the first time in days, I felt like I had some semblance of control. I told myself that getting out of my apartment would be enough, that the stranger would lose interest, that I could put this behind me. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The drive took longer than it should have, even though the roads were quiet. I found myself checking the rearview mirror every few minutes, expecting to see that black sedan or maybe the same person walking down the street, casually waiting for me to make the wrong move. But nothing happened, just the empty road. I arrived at the hotel and checked it in, still feeling the weight of the last few days pressed down on me. The receptionist barely looked up as she handed me my key card, her voice hollow as she told me the room number, room 303. I took the elevator up to the third floor, the soft hum of the old machine filling the empty space. The hallway was quiet, too quiet. The fluorescent lights flickered as I walked to my door. My hand trembled as I inserted the key card into the lock. As soon as the door clicked open, I froze. There, on the bed, was a folded piece of paper. I stepped in cautiously, not sure what to expect. I didn't even want to touch it, but I knew I had no choice. With shaking hands, I unfolded the paper. "I'm right behind you." A chill ran down my spine. I spun around. Nothing. Just the empty hotel room, the walls closing in around me. My heart pounded in my chest. I rushed to lock the door, but when I turned around, something made me pause. The mirror across from me, the one I hadn't even noticed when I first walked in, was fogged over. But it wasn't from the heat, or from me being out in the cold air. In the foggy mirror, I saw something that made my blood run cold. My reflection was smiling, but I wasn't. If you ever think you're alone, think again. The next time you get a message from someone you can't remember meeting, look closely at what you don't see. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell, because you never know who's watching you from the other side of the mirror.